And we're back. If you're catching this story here, there's a lot you've missed. My advice would be catch it from the very beginning. Catch it definitely from the very beginning. A big thank you to Sarova for the amazing accommodation. The story continues. So where you left us,
yeah.
I mean, your story has just some crazy cliffhangers. From losing your mom, apologies for that. Even that other guy dying in the bomb blast. Your family going to States.
Yep.
So in 99 or is it 98 that you go join them?
99. Yeah.
99 you go and join them.
99 January.
And where is it? Chicago.
Yeah, so I traveled.
You leave your dad here?
Yes, so my dad, I think at that time he had remarried. So this is when my stepmom now checks in. And she didn't come alone. So she had a daughter who I found out at this point was our actual sister.
Oh.
And she was younger than me but older than my younger brother. So this I learned later. And so my dad then got together with a mom and they moved in. And so yeah, that's why I was like, it was a bit rough. That's why I did move out at that point, because I had trouble with that particular transition. Although later on we got used to it. Now we are friends, the steps and us.
Yes.
And we ended up getting another younger brother because she was much younger than my dad.
Yes. So when you moved out, when you're 19,
yes.
it's to these States. It's not
No.
Hey, why have you left that store? This city here, bro. Rewind. Rewind.
So I think I might actually have been 18. So what happened is that at some point, because I had this job and everything else, I was making my own.
And the Navigators now.
Yeah. In fact, there was another job before Navigators where I was working for some guys called Character Magazine, but that was a very difficult one. We were hawking magazines and selling them in in offices and stuff. So that didn't last more than 3 months. But I got the Navigators job, so that one I was earning a bit more money.
Don't skip that.
Yeah.
So what is it that you learned about that job and yourself? So
it was a sales job. It was 100% a sales job. We would go around, selling subscriptions for... It was like a lifestyle magazine. And so I can't remember how a group of us, I think it was a group of us from the Navigator circles who ended up being interviewed, and then we did that job for like 1 month. I remember first month I earned like 900 bob from commissions only. I think that's what began my life in...
You eat what you kill.
Yeah.
So basically you don't sell, you don't eat.
Yeah. So that taught us sales, and it was...
Why you hate it?
Oh no, it was rough. It was rough. I remember we would meet, some people haven't sold anything, some have sold, and then that's when you'd see now the high performance from the whatever.
Yeah.
But my dad was just like, it's okay, I'm taking care of you. You can just do it. Do it to keep yourself busy.
So did you like doing it, or you're like, no, man?
No, I did not.
Because you're walking into stranger's office.
Yeah.
Then you begin your sales pitch.
Yeah, it's begin your sales pitch. Do a try to sell subscriptions. So there are a few people, maybe when you go to spaces where they already know you or something, you start with, of course, people who know you, they buy a few, nini. But no, it didn't work very well. So I didn't last there for too long.
So that's when you went to the
third month. Then I got the opportunity now to get a Navigator's job, which was like a steady monthly salary of something like 5K, which was significant then.
Yep.
And so at that point I got that job, I felt I could be independent. So I moved in with, I think it was Pastor Martin Simiu as a roommate, his roommate. So we'd share rent and everything. And
where is this?
I think if I remember well, it was in Kawangware, the space that we went to live in. Yeah. I remember it was in Kawangware.
So your middle class upper self was
yes.
moving to lower.
And I went back to Kawangware at some point. For me, it didn't matter. I think at that point, what I was really driving for was for my freedom.
Independence.
Yeah, and independence. And just being away from...
Peace.
All the stuff that was happening in the transition that my dad was going through, with a new family and everything. And yes, I think I did stay there until just before moving to the US.
Then
when I took my stuff back. And then later on, I did go to the US.
Okay, let's now take it then from the US.
Yeah, so I get on the plane, go to Chicago.
You hadn't been to the US before?
No.
Okay.
No, so it was actually my first time on a plane.
Okay.
I'd never traveled anywhere else before that. So I traveled to the US, get met by my sisters who are pretty much settled there. So my firstborn sis was working because she had done her uni and finished. She had been there for a long time, like veteran. My second born and third born sis, because they had left their university here, they kind of cut it short and then went and started afresh there. So they had to restart their education there because they were not able to move credits and stuff. And yeah, then there was my younger brother who was going through the high school, primary and high school system there. And so, yeah, so I go and join them. Happy-go-lucky.
They all staying in one house?
Yeah, they're all living in one house. They had kind of worked that out. Like, it works very well when you're with relatives over there in the US. And I mean, it was a time when we had a serious blast. In fact, one of the things that happened during this time was that I had come from, Fortress and Navigators and everything. And those settings were a bit cocooned and conservative.
Yeah.
So I remember moving to the US and my sisters, in fact, they've all become a lot more radical than me since, but they were quite liberal then.
Yeah.
And so I remember then going to join them and then now being exposed to this whole new world of anything goes.
Yes.
And that's when I started to question a lot of things about my Christianity. Because I remember like the first weekend, they had a bash and they were going out to a club or something. And then I just decided, okay, let me go join them. Let me see what this is. Because I'd never done that kind of stuff here.
Yeah.
And so I go and check it out and I'm like, hey, this is the life.
Sin is good. No, not sin, but you know
yeah,
what I mean?
So like just being exposed to that lifestyle where there's freedom and I can now do all these kinds of things away from judgment back in Kenya. Here, if you went to Kani, you would be judged so harshly, you'd even be excommunicated.
There's levels of religiosity.
Yes, and that now got me on a path of questioning this whole legalism that I had been a part of before. Like it had kept me in the straight and narrow, but I realized that also a lot of what I did was because of either the pressures around me or the insulation around me, and that outside of that, I was a bit of a different person. So it got me questioning a lot of then what do I fundamentally believe? Who am I really? Like I went through those existential questions of who am I, in different settings and that kind of thing. And so this is funny because so I was in the US for 4 months and then I came back, which is another story in itself. Maybe I can just tell it now. So what happened is that during the 4 months, we were having a lot of discussions with my sisters around, should I really stay in the US and study there? I had gotten an admission, but it wasn't on a scholarship. So it meant that if I went into that college, I would have to pay my way. And international students pay a lot more than local. It's expensive. My family didn't necessarily have the money because after my siblings going there, it's like all... It's
on your sis when everyone is working.
Everything was depleted and just my sis is working. And
your dad is not sending money, nothing.
I know him, his job was up until... and, he's done his job in educating you because really he didn't have a war chest that would cater for what was like my sis. I think they catered for like the first year and then they still had the rest of us to take care of and stuff. So it didn't really go that way. So the reality that I had to face was that if I went through the American system of higher education, I would really have to make it work for myself, which meant having to work, maybe get a job illegally and all those sorts of things. Like that was what the setup was at the time. And I remember that kind of was a tough thing for me to reconcile, that this is what I would have to do. Remember, I'd come from a very conservative background, very principled, always in the straight and narrow. So I went through this difficulty accepting that I would need to step into that system and walk into it. There would be no guarantee of when I would finish school.
And you actually sat down and had this conversation?
We were having these conversations as we went along.
Because your other sister was doing that.
I remember even at some point I got a job at UPS, the packaging company.
Yeah.
Like stacking boxes in trucks and stuff.
Because there's no pocket money, there's
no pocket money. Like I had to start through that system. And so my dad got my admission letter to Egerton University in the mail. And then he puts it in the mail and sends it to the US. So I'm in the US, I get this mail addressed to me. I open it up, it's a letter saying that I've been admitted to Egerton University to study computer science. And, class starts in August of that same year. Remember, we were out for 2 years. So I'm standing here and I have the choice between Egerton University, government sponsored. In fact, I would get HELB loan and everything.
Yes.
and staying in the US,
UPS.
sponsoring myself, working through, struggling through. I had seen what my sisters and other people had gone through. And so I made the tough decision to come back to Egerton University.
I'm so happy
after
to hear
4
that
months.
Story. Like I've never had a story like this.
So
where by choice.
This would be clearing the air, because a lot of people thought I was deported then. Like there are people who would not, they couldn't understand how someone at the age of 19 would go to the US, living the US life, and then deliberately make the choice to come back. But for me it was okay, I wouldn't say it was a no-brainer. I struggled with it a bit, but at the end of the day, my sisters were like, look, you still have the US visa. We'll make sure maybe you come back and visit, once or twice, but you just go back. We've got your back. So I got on the plane, bought a few things with the money I had made. Remember when I went to campus, I had this, we used to call them tenjes.
Yeah.
Hi-fi systems that I'd come with from the, like I'd bought a few things, came back with them. So yeah, my Fortress peeps were very shocked, because everyone used to stand in front and get prayed for and disappear, and then last seen on stage.
Oh, so now guys must have been
now
like,
I came back, and that's
deported.
why everyone could not understand why I came back. And also I came back with a very different mindset, because remember I had been exposed to that liberal lifestyle that got me questioning. So when I came back, I was questioning everything. So everyone is like, oh, no, he went to the States and got lost. Because I came back and I was now not just accepting any doctrine without questioning it and, fundamentally understanding why something exists. So people say, oh, you can't go out into the clubs. Why? Like, what? Why? Explain why. So there are people who also felt I'd come back with a watered down version of my salvation, and things had changed.
Okay, wait, let me ask this question. Now, when you're in the States, you meet your bro.
Yes.
So your bro, you guys have really never had this relationship, because he's young, and then when he's coming of age, he's one, you're in boarding. Yes. When he's coming of age, he's out. Yeah. So what was it like meeting him now?
I mean, he was pretty much integrated into that American system. And up until today, my bro understands American history and everything, because he studied there. Is he in States now? He's back here. I'll get there. He's back here himself. But yeah, I remember, in fact, it was very interesting, because when I was there, my dad made one trip there. And it was the first time that our whole family was together in a very long time in one place. Because he came and visited us there. We had some deliberations as a family. I think that fed into that whole thing of me coming back as well. I think that's when he now formally announced that he was going to, remarry and that kind of thing, and this person he had met. So there was a few good memories of us being together in the US together. And just doing a lot of things around Chicago together, traveling around the US. I remember we did a few road trips with my sisters and their friends. So I got to experience the US of A in its entirety before coming back. And I went back
with this new mindset.
With a new mindset.
The watered down version of yourself.
Yes.
Like that. Boring example.
Yeah.
More exposed. And I keep, in fact, I'm so glad that you brought that up. Exposure is powerful. And I think exposure is exposure. So the ancestors, as Adele calls them. Exposure is necessary. So you're saying coming back now, you questioned. You are not just going to do not drink, do not smoke, come to church on Sunday every Sunday. Like, what you were asking the why. Yes,
I was asking a lot of hard questions around the whys, because I remember one of the churches I went to in the US was this church for Bill Hybels. The pretty famous church, like pretty wealthy church in Chicago and everything, and hanging out with the people there. And I remember we went for a camp once, and then guys order beers, and I'm looking around and I'm like, are we in a church function? And everyone is pretty easy. So that's, those kind of things make you start asking questions around, why did I believe it's wrong? They seem pretty nice people. The rest of the time I hang out with them, they seem to be upholding, the things that they are learning in the Bible and the like. So that completely disrupted everything that I had thought about religion and church after that. And when I came back, I started just literally questioning everything about, was my faith circumstantial or geographical? Or was it universal? If I am dropped in the middle of China, will I continue to believe the same things?
That is so powerful.
Turned me into a philosopher.
I love it. Okay, so you come back. Let's continue that story. So do you come back and immediately start Egerton? Do you come back and you live in with your stepmom?
So I came back and so moved back to living with my dad, my stepmom, and my stepsis. That was interesting because by then my dad we had moved to like Woodlands Avenue, which is near Caledonia. And then after that, my dad retired. And I remember the first house we lived in was somewhere near Roysambu. We moved to Roysambu. Then after that, my dad moved to Shags. So the house I came back to was in Roysambu. And yeah, I think I pretty much lived an independent lifestyle. I had my own money, you know, I was just there maybe as a tenant and in preparation for joining Egerton University, which is all the way in Njoro.
Okay. And
so, you know, prepared, went into uni. Just before I went into uni, a friend of mine called Joram Mwinamo, again, who we were with in Patch, same circles in NPC Church, but we were more family friends as well. Good friends to date, was his best man and stuff type of thing. So Joram Mwinamo was in Daystar at the time, and he then was telling me about this organization he was a part of called ISEC that opens the next chapter of my life.
Nice.